Ooh.
Ooh, it's live.
Ooh, you are live, and Charlie joins us. Boom! There he is. Charlie.
Wow,
Charge. All right.
How's it going, guys?
Have a lot of fun stuff with the name things, I think.
Yep. Do we get to pick a new one each week, or I don't know how this works. I'm excited for that.
We just started the thing. Let me click on this. What's this do?
Ooh.
Three of us.
Yeah.
What was that? Marcus is here. Let's get. It's like a goddamn Brady bunch, is what it is. It's a Brady bunch, is what it is.
Okay, I'm looking in the left-hand corner. Nope. I gotta look over here. I'm looking at Travis now, and now I'm looking at Charlie and Marcus. So,
I gotta look up.
How are you? Marcus is down there. So there we go. And it's Sports Lounge 278, the Brady Bunch edition. I was saying, Marcus, we could have a lot of fun with the names there. Charlie's got a little thing right there. Stack.
That's good.
You're good with Marcus. What's your yellow can of beverage tonight?
Surly, because why not?
What is that?
It's Surly Brewing out of the Twin Cities area. It's a pale ale.
Who is that?
I don't know.
It's good. It's okay for I can faintly hear that.
It's loud for me. Goodness gracious.
What is that?
I don't know. Is that me?
I don't know.
Can anyone else hear that?
Is it gone now?
Yes.
Not hearing
Sound, but not hearing anything.
I can faintly hear it. It must be Stack. In here,
Let's try this again.
that better. Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Perfect.
Texas is back.
Texas is back. Get it out of the way early. So we got a show here. Whoa.
Let me try something.
All right, he's going to try something here.
What the fuck is that? Is that me?
Go away and join us again. Is it gone now?
No.
Okay. Go and then come back. All right, a rousing start to the edition right here. It's still there. I can hear it.
I guess I can go to
What are we hearing?
It's like, I don't even know. It's like just a humming. I don't hear it now. I don't hear it now. No. I don't hear it now. So. Well, that's good. We're healed. And him with the thing. Okay. Charlie's grabbing some headphones. We didn't really hear it much. There it is back.
Because I have headphones in, so
Headphones. It's the headphone. In fact, it's my headphone. Do I have it? That could be a problem. All right, here.
sounds like it's demonized.
Not good. Put this in. Hello? Can you hear me?
I can, but the noise is still
I
there.
can't hear you. No. Hello?
Hello? I can hear it.
I could not hear anybody when I put in my headphones.
That's probably right.
Yeah. Sing. All right. Try this. What's this look like? One big guy, two little guys. More of us. Two of us. With me. There we go. Charlie, how was Thanksgiving? Whoa.
I heard Charlie and then didn't get anything.
Texas is back.
Reverb on that one. Hello.
Yep.
I'm not having any audio problems for the record. So
Okay. Charlie, how was Thanksgiving?
It was good. I didn't get home till Friday night because I had to work Wednesday and Friday, and my parents weren't in town, so I had Thanksgiving on Saturday. But it was generally good. I enjoyed it. It was kind of weird, just kind of hanging out in my apartment by myself on Thursday, but Saturday was good, so that made up for it.
There you go. Marcus, how was the snow situation in Laverne?
not a lot of snow on Wednesday, Thursday. It was pretty reasonable. The holidays, I do on that side of the family, Thanksgiving, Christmas in the same day, went off without a hitch. My grandpa yelled at other members of the family for the bingo game going too fast, couldn't keep up with the cards. So, and then Friday I drove back home to Minnesota, and then I drove the treacherous drive today back to Mitchell, I-90. If anybody ever asks why I have gray hair at age 28, I will tell them that that's one of the reasons why. It seems like twice a year. I've already had it twice this season where the roads have been very bad, and driving them in the dark, not a lot of fun, but I made it. Everything's all right. So
You drove from Minnesota to Mitchell?
Today I did, yeah.
That's a 4-hour drive usually?
Usually 4 hours. Today I made a couple stops, but took me 5.5 hours probably.
That was a lengthy drive.
I'm not gonna lie. I saw that there were 16 inches of snow in Aberdeen over the weekend, and thought, I'm glad I don't live there right now.
I dodged. I mean, in all the places I was this weekend, dodged all the snow. I mean, there were 2 feet of snow in Duluth, and that was bad. But didn't have to deal with a lot of it. Looks like Mitchell got about 4 inches of snow while I was gone, but it's here, winter, baby.
Did the storm go further north than what they were expecting? Further, further west instead of hitting Minnesota? Because I thought Minnesota was supposed to get hit pretty significantly, and outside of Duluth, I don't think any place really did.
Based on what I gathered, I mean, it looked like Pierre and Aberdeen were sort of in the driving the bullseye zone, and then once it went north, I assume it missed Stacking, if this is what he's saying is correct, and then somehow got up north. But when you bring in the lake effect snow, that's a whole other ball of wax that we don't know. We don't have much experience with. So
Sioux Falls wasn't much, 2 inches, 4 inches in Mitchell, but the roads were bad. Roads were very, very poor, very bad. Stacking, how did you spend your big weekend?
Was it was in Fergus Falls for Thanksgiving Day, then did some Black Friday shopping in Fargo, then Marshall for the weekend.
Did you run into the Beck family up there in Fergus Falls?
I did not. No, I did not. Fortunate or unfortunately, I did not.
It's a small world, Crins. It's not that small. Come on now.
I gotta assume they were up there. This is Fergus Falls. I can't imagine look at this. Can't imagine it's too damn big. What do we got for holiday lighting? We got any trees?
We got some sort of light problem going on here. I'll get this fixed.
All right. I like the way
The Sport After Dark.
The strobe lights going.
There you go. Really get this shit going.
Wait, was this Pac-12 After Dark?
Did I miss
something?
This is Sports Lounge After Dark.
Brought to you by Leiden Kugels. There we go. College football regular season, that thing is done. Let's get to our college football preview. Who do you like, Charlie? Who's your 4 playoff teams?
I'm going to go with Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Utah. I don't know. I just got a feeling that Utah's probably going to be only have 1 loss going into the conference championship game.
Is this blue light? I think that blue light signifies Memphis going to have a big year. Were you disappointed, Stack, in the outcome of the big game? The big game on Saturday?
Yeah, I was. I really thought that that UTEP was going to come away with a victory over Rice, but that wasn't the case. But yeah, to be serious here, yes, it sucked. I wish they would have won, but I knew after the Iowa loss that was, I guess, to be expected that Minnesota was going to be in a dogfight, and of course they would lose to Wisconsin because why the hell not?
Marcus, where did things take a turn? First half, low scoring, then Wisconsin put it on. Second half was downfall early on. Wisconsin went for it, and Minnesota didn't. Did you have much hope going into the second half?
There were a few things that bugged me. I think mainly that Minnesota was pretty thoroughly outcoached and out game planned in this one. It did bug me that they didn't go for it on 4th down and 2 at about the Wisconsin 35. They're already up 7-0. You need touchdowns to beat Wisconsin. That's what they did last year. Got the win, by 22 in Madison, and part of it was because they were fairly aggressive. But Wisconsin did a good job of scheming against Minnesota. Got linebackers on their top receivers. Got defensive ends on their running backs in pass coverage on touchdowns. On a play where everybody knows that you're going to be blitzing because you're down 2 touchdowns, Minnesota brings the house. They throw a screen to the fullback. He goes for 70 yards. I mean, it's just like those are things you can't have happen. You can't be fooled by a reverse on a kickoff after you cut the game to 1 score, 17-10. And you let them run all the way into Minnesota territory. So pretty disappointed in that. Less disappointed, but still disappointed in how Tanner Morgan played because it was not up to what the level he's played this year. I thought the receivers had fine statistical games, but not good enough by their standards either. So just kind of disappointing because obviously all the hype that went into College game day and it looked great, just like it felt honestly similar to the NDSU thing in that you have your big rival there and you can't beat them. So, disappointing on the whole. I'm not quite as negative about this season. I like everybody had Rose Bowl dreams that this would be the team that would go there, but 10-2 is nothing to sneeze at considering what Minnesota's recent football history has been, recent as being the last 5 decades. They're going to play on New Year's Day for the second time in the last 50 years. So that's good. Go win the bowl game, go beat somebody good, and end the season with 11 wins. That'd be great. So
how much credit do I get for saying that they were going to be 11-1 and I fall 1 game short of that? Do I get any sort of credit?
Yes, all the credit.
Okay.
I'm not giving you any credit because you wanted to jump off. You thought the season was over by losing against Iowa, and I just can't.
No. Let me defend myself there. The college football playoff was done at that point,
and it wasn't. If they would have won yesterday and they beat Ohio State, they wouldn't have been done.
Okay, but they weren't going to beat Ohio State, so let's just put that to bed right now. They aren't going to beat Ohio State. They weren't going to beat Ohio State. What I was saying is that the dreams of the Big Ten championship, Rose Bowl, the Rose Bowl had a chance, but the Big Ten championship, the college football playoff itself, that was done.
No.
Yes, they weren't going to beat Ohio State. No one's going to beat Ohio State.
You're telling me if they would have beat Iowa, then you think they could have beaten Ohio State?
No.
So why did they play any of the games? If it was a foregone conclusion that Ohio State was going to win the Big Ten and go to the playoff, they might as well not send anybody to Indianapolis next week. Let's not bother with it.
Right. You may as well send Purdue or Rutgers because it's going to be the same outcome.
If you're a person who's into sadistic things, yes, please do that. Send Purdue, send Rutgers. I certainly understand what you mean. And the fact is that they weren't eliminated with the Iowa loss. Maybe they should have been, but they weren't. And maybe I'm an idiot, but I would have liked to have seen a Minnesota in a dome against Ohio State.
Yes.
And you cut those receivers loose and see what happens. I have a feeling it would go poorly. I have a feeling the final score would be 42-13. But at least you're there. At least you give that a shot. I think we all know what's going to happen to Wisconsin. And I'm going to sound maybe preposterous. We don't have a preposterous statement tournament, but put me in I'll take a high seed. I don't think the Rose Bowl dream is necessarily done for Minnesota because if Ohio State makes the playoff, if Wisconsin gets drilled, and we're talking whatever the score was when Nebraska got drilled in the Big Ten championship that one time, 73 to whatever.
77 to 35, something like 77 to 30 something.
77 to 35. I don't think they'll take Wisconsin. All that has to happen is Minnesota ends up ranked ahead of Wisconsin.
Penn State.
And Penn State. So I doubt that's going to happen, but you never know. If it's 49-0 and Wisconsin doesn't show up, they're not going to be the highest. They may not be the highest ranked team, and it's going to be between Penn State and Minnesota. So
I would have also liked to see Minnesota make it to the Big Ten championship game. Never been there before. Even if they would have lost to Ohio State, that would have been totally fine. But at the end of the day, if they had just had to play Wisconsin and all that was on the line were bragging rights to the Axe because Minnesota was already guaranteed to go into the Big Ten or to the Big Ten championship game because they won the Big Ten West, that was totally fine for me.
That's the mistake in the Iowa loss is that you had a chance to have this whole operation locked up before you played Wisconsin at all, and you didn't do it. And you can't afford to be down 20-3 to Iowa. And we saw that they had an ability to come back against them and all that jazz, but you can't be that far behind and expect to win. And
that's my point, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair thing.
Good point. Charlie, do you think this is sustainable with old Coach Fleck there? Is this you can maybe book 8, 9, 10 wins a year, hopefully? Is this the thing that he's going to stay for a while and they can be up there with Iowa and Wisconsin every year?
I think it's possible. I mean, as long as Fleck's there. I mean, I think Wisconsin's going to be the cream of the crop in the Big Ten West until someone knocks them off the throne repeatedly year after year. And Iowa's generally fine, but Iowa, I mean, seems to get 8 or 9 wins in the regular season, rarely gets more than that. I mean, I think Minnesota, they could. I mean, I don't know if they will. I mean, it's, you're kind of fighting against decades of being like good but not great at times, and it's tough to keep that sustained success. But I think Minnesota has a better chance, or maybe I should put it this way. Certainly, I think it looks much better now than it did at any point in the last 5 years. I mean, even last year when they finished on a high note, I didn't think there's any way they'd win 10 games this season. So, and the other thing too is they just got good players. I mean, that's the biggest thing is having good players that buy in, and they've got the best receivers outside of probably Ohio State in the conference. So, when you've got dudes that can make plays, that's steps 1, 2, and 3 right there.
I think the game against Wisconsin, the game against Iowa, pretty much any time you play them drives home the importance of offensive line, defensive line. You have to win those battles. Minnesota was winning those battles for a split second early in the game, but Wisconsin wore them down. And like Charlie said, that's the reason they're going to stay on top of the Big Ten West until Minnesota or Nebraska or Iowa can show on a regular basis that they can match up in those ways. So I think Minnesota has the potential to do that. I mean, they've got a top 30 recruiting class in the works for next year. That's good enough in the Big Ten West to compete. And so, really, I will be, a Rose Bowl, like we said, would be great this season, but I will be happy if they follow this up with, 9, 10 wins again next year. And even if it's 2 straight years that don't end up in the Rose Bowl or the Big Ten championship, that sustains success at the top of the division is a good sign. And PJ Fleck has said, or has, name checked, so to speak, Barry Alvarez and Kirk Ferentz quite a bit in the last few weeks. Maybe in part because they played Wisconsin and Iowa, but I think he sees himself as somebody who wants to get to that level where it's relatively consistent from year in and year out. And he's committed to leaving Minnesota's rough football past in the past. That's a good first step for the Gophers. So,
and don't you think they arrived a little earlier than what we thought?
Yeah, I mean, this is year 3, and the big jump happened, and that's what you want. You have to remember they didn't even really know who the quarterback was going to be. We weren't sure if they were going to trust Tanner Morgan to be the guy again. They had the decision made for him because Zach Annexstad broke his foot or whatever, and so Tanner Morgan stepped up. If anything, their running back play has been underwhelming this year, but that was supposed to be the strength of this team. So the defense has played well. I think it's all good signs for the future, and I think they're headed in the right direction, which is nice. There's been so much energy around Gopher football this year that I think that's such great progress for the future, hopefully. And their schedule next year is fairly workable once again. So
When do they play Fresno State?
what's that?
When do they play Fresno State? 1, 2, or 3?
They do not play Fresno State. They play BYU, they play Tennessee Tech, and they play some other team the first game that is not good. So
Florida Atlantic, I think.
Florida Atlantic, yeah. Florida Atlantic, Tennessee Tech, and BYU are the non-conference games. It's going to be awkward this year because they play Iowa like in week 3. They play Wisconsin in October, and they play Charlie's Huskers in Lincoln on Black Friday. So that's going to be weird next year.
Boo, Big Ten, boo.
One of the best games of the season was Auburn, Alabama. Auburn won 48-45. This was a great game. A lot of weird things happened. Weird pick sixes, 100 yards, kickoff returns. This was an outstanding game. Charlie, how much of this did you see? And I haven't seen a lot of football this year, but I can't imagine there's been too many games better than this one.
I think I agree that that's the best game I've seen this year. I started off flipping between that and Minnesota and Wisconsin. As you guys could probably guess, not being a Minnesota or Wisconsin fan, I kind of quit watching that one when Wisconsin went up 2 scores and basically just watched Auburn and Alabama the rest of the way. It's I guess it shows that Alabama's pretty good, that they can have the other team get 2 defensive scores and still have a chance to win. But also, I mean, there's not many more fitting ways for Alabama to lose than to miss a pressure field goal at the end of the game that they need.
Another field goal kicker for Alabama does them in. Back at quarterback, he played pretty well. So, Jack, and a lot of things had to go wrong for Alabama not to make this thing. Had a quarterback die, had all these other scores that had to happen, these non-offensive scores. People very excited. When we talk about the lawnmower, people very excited that Alabama's done.
The 2 ladies that got stuck in the hedges, I think, were most excited.
They were very excited too.
It was their dying wish for Alabama to not make the playoff, and I think they got it because they're not ever getting out of those hedges.
The bush was a little thick. Let's just put it that way.
There we go. Back, and he does it. That'll be the name of the episode. The bush was a little thick. We got Utah, I guess. That they're looking pretty good here. You got Georgia, of course. They went in there in, but
They aren't. Let's just put that to bed.
Well,
now, out their top 2 wide receivers, they don't have a prayer.
Stack.
They've got more of a prayer than Wisconsin does against Ohio State or Virginia does against Clemson.
Fair.
Like, it's not like Georgia lacks for guys that can play football.
Fair.
I think it's Marcus with the hello? There we go.
Yep.
There we go. On the week in which on the week in which Stephen F. Austin beats Duke, you're saying that Georgia doesn't have a chance against Burrow and company.
No, I don't think they compared to Virginia, Clemson, and Wisconsin, Ohio State, yes, Georgia's got a better chance to beat LSU than those 2 teams. But I'll just say right now, LSU is so much better than Georgia, and Georgia without wide receiver because of injury, and their other wide receiver gets in a fight with Georgia Tech because why the hell not? With Jake Fromm has struggled, I think, this year. The offense in general for Georgia struggled this year. Remember, they lost to South Carolina, so I'm just going to say I don't think they have a very, very small chance to beat LSU.
I agree with some of what you're saying, Stackin. I would not say that LSU's far better in terms of defense, though. I think Georgia's a lot better on defense. Yes. I think LSU's kind of above average, but you can score on. Now, I don't know if Georgia will be able to capitalize on that or not, but I mean, and I'm not saying it'll happen. I think it's feasible that Georgia could hold LSU to 24 or 27 points, and if they do that, would maybe have a chance. Certainly, if it gets into the 30s or 40s, though, I think the odds of Georgia keeping up are very slim.
Utah, I guess, I think is the team that's probably now. Can they beat Oregon 1? And are they the team that you want to see in there? Because I don't want to see Oklahoma because they have struggled quite a bit. Is Utah, because nobody knows anything about them because they're Utah. Ohio State, I guess, would be the matchup. Would that interest you more than Oklahoma game or anybody else you could think of?
I think I'd rather see Oklahoma, to be honest, and maybe that's just a name brand critique, but I'd rather see a team led by the former Alabama quarterback Jalen Hurts. Whether or not they can play defense or not, I guess I don't care as much. Utah, I think, would be fine, but I think this is a 3-team playoff field in a year where they've got to pick 4. So
I agree with that.
It would seem to be pretty simple. In the BCS era, it would be Ohio State and LSU would have been the 2 teams, and undefeated defending national champ Clemson would have been left out, which would have been a pretty big deal. But there's really not an argument, is there, to put Clemson ahead of either of those 2?
If you were going to make an argument, I guess it would just be that outside of North Carolina, Clemson's bludgeoned everybody else they've played. But certainly the other 2 have basically done the same thing against more difficult schedules.
Stack, and can Utah beat Oregon?
Yes.
They will.
Well, Oregon, now granted, Oregon State's a lot better than what we thought, but they only won by 14 points. What motivation do they have to beat Utah? I mean, apart from obviously winning the Pac-12, getting the automatic bid to the Rose Bowl. But I think Utah ultimately is better. Utah struggled early with Colorado. I think they thought they would look right past them. But I think Utah will beat Oregon.
Utah over Oregon. Baylor rolled. Yeah, Baylor, Oklahoma. Baylor was that big in that game. Oklahoma comes back. Big 12. Anybody picking Baylor here? 12 field.
I'm going for ultimate humor factor. I think game 2 goes exactly the same way game 1 does. So Baylor gets up big early. Oklahoma claws back and wins the game.
Nope. There we go.
Would this not be another one of those situations where it would seem that this conference championship, completely unnecessary conference championship in the Big 12, only serves to hurt the conference rather than, if Baylor wins, it just negates the chances of Oklahoma. You had the 2 teams beat each other, not really a case for the 2 teams to be in the playoff, or you have Oklahoma win, and maybe a win over Baylor isn't impressive a second time. So I just think this is not beneficial for the Big 12 to have an unnecessary conference championship. I think they have to have it because every other league has one, but I don't think it does them any good.
We think, though, that that the winner of the Big 12 championship game will get in if Utah loses, correct?
That seems to be the consensus, yes.
Okay.
Baylor.
I think everybody else could get in.
Because everybody else has, because Memphis with 1 loss, they're not going to be highly enough ranked. And I guess, Charlie, would this have been the year for one of those group of 5 teams to sneak in there? If things would have fell just right, this would have been a year for an undefeated Boise State or an undefeated whoever the hell to get that 4th seed.
App State?
This would have been a really nice year for App State or SMU or UCF to have that Houston schedule from like 4 years ago where they played Oklahoma and they played Louisville when they had Lamar Jackson and won both those games. But I think Houston gagged 2 other games in conference. But yeah, that would have been – I think this would have been the year for it. But I don't even know who the highest ranked group of 5 team is right now. Is it Boise State, I'm guessing? I don't know.
Memphis.
They
got Cincinnati. They beat them, so that's a good win. They play Cincinnati again this week, so they beat them twice, and I would assume Memphis will get it if they can win it.
Think about Boise State. They started the year with Florida State, and that they won that game, and that's not worth anything because Florida State's bad.
Yeah. Bad year to schedule usually a good team. So, again, me and Marcus, last week we were talking about like the schedule for these games next week. You've got Friday, the Pac-12 game, which is kind of normal, but it's on ABC and not Fox. So that's a bit of a change.
Fox didn't want it because they got SmackDown.
Yeah. So
Fox only has one game this year.
Yeah, that's right. The big game at the end. There you go. So if Utah wins this, I mean, there's really not much going on Saturday besides that SEC game. So you got the Big 12 game at 11. You got Georgia LSU at 3:00. You got Virginia and Clemson at 6:30. You got the Big 10 game there at 7:00 on Fox. So
Can we play with the idea? Let's say Georgia does beat LSU. One, do you assume Georgia's in? And two, how do you see the teams at that point?
Ohio State 1, Clemson 2, Georgia 3, I guess, LSU 4.
I
It'd
think
be
that's
interesting to have Ohio State playing against former quarterback Joe Burrow then.
I think that's the right way to do it, and I think it's an exponentially more interesting playoff if that does happen. I like LSU a lot. I hope they don't lose, but that it makes those semifinal games a lot more interesting. This is we've probably talked about this, maybe not on. We obviously haven't had a show in a long time, but this is a year where the number one seed matters right now. You don't want to be the team that has to play Clemson or LSU as it stands for Ohio State. So right now, having that number one seed seems like a big deal.
That's pretty home field advantage. One of these at the Sugar Bowl.
I think one's in Atlanta and the Peach Bowl, and the others in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, you don't want to play LSU in Atlanta, I guess, if that's worth anything.
Or Clemson in Atlanta.
Or you want to stay. You want to go to Phoenix or else. Oh yeah, look at this. What do we got? We've got what is he? He's got to be 2 years old by now, doesn't he?
He's 2 in 2 weeks.
2 in 2 weeks. Any first words yet? Are we getting to
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. No, he says like 200, 300 words.
Jeez.
What do you want to say?
200 to 300 words here.
Yes. Do you have anything to say? Do you think Clemson's in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
All right. All right. Put your hand next to your dad. Put your hand next to your dad.
Well, yeah. Hands up.
Hands up. Let's see how big your hand is. Whoa, look at that guy.
Down now?
I think his hands are pretty size. We got a contender here.
Got a ways to go, but I think it's got potential.
Got a contender. There we go. So college football, I would say Minnesota's the biggest surprise for the good. And,
I mean Baylor's out there, and
for the good. I mean, we all hate Baylor because they rate.
Yeah, Baylor's for the common bad. Yeah.
But yeah, they were a big surprise. Kansas State was good at 8-4.
It's Indiana at 8-4. Indiana won yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I quit watching that once the 2:30 game started.
Indiana can go get a ninth win.
That's nice. Texas, what 7-5 here?
They're firing everybody today. Yep.
Are they? Texas
and Stacken, I think, both had Texas and Michigan in the college football playoff, and that did not pan out.
Texas.
Can we talk for a few minutes about this Michigan thing, because I am captivated a little bit more.
Okay.
Harbaugh just getting ripped for not winning these games. It is I would decide it's a successful season because they're 9-3 or 10-2.
9-3 now.
9-3 now. I mean, it is bad for him that he keeps losing to their number one rival, who happens to be the number one team in the country. I don't think the seat should be very hot for him, but handling the question like he did yesterday about the gap between the two teams poorly is not great. So, what
did he said again? I remember it was something weird and funny.
I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to answer your criticism or something.
I'll answer your question, but not your insults or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a fair question. It was, there's a bit of a gap here between you and Ohio State. Like, what's got to happen here for this thing to just be competitive? And he didn't want to answer that. And they've had their chances. By all means, Michigan has had many chances to win.
I would argue that it was competitive yesterday, but Ohio State kept coming in waves, man. They've just got a ton of guys. J.K. Dobbins, incredible yesterday. So to me, that's the difference. I mean, Michigan just didn't have the guys for 60 minutes. Ohio State has them for 60 minutes, and as we'll probably see in the playoff, enough for 15 games worth. So that's pretty impressive. And since, sorry, I don't want to cut anybody else off. Anybody else got any thoughts on that?
On Michigan, I think let's see if okay. Hopefully that's not echoing anymore now. I think my favorite thing with the Michigan stuff is that I get Michigan was great from 1890 to 1940, and they've been very good since then. But a lot of Michigan fans think that Michigan's Ohio State or USC. It's well, they've only won one national title in the last 60 years. Michigan's standard season is not 11-1. We just missed out on winning the national title. Michigan's standard year is we're ranked in the top 10. We went 9-3. We lost our bowl game to a more talented team by 2 touchdowns. But then we made fun of the other team for being not as good of a school as we are. And Michigan being we're 9-3. We're pretty good. That's generally Michigan. And at some point in the last decade, it's turned into Michigan needs to win national titles. And it's well, that's not been – other than the year they split with Nebraska in 97, they've had 2 other years since then where they were kind of in the running to win a national title late in the year. But that's I don't know. It's interesting to me that, all those wins from 1910 are supposed to matter now.
I heard that same argument, and they wisely pointed out that Michigan has not won a national title in the last 6 years. They won half a national title in 1997. So that's I like that distinction, which could be used against any team that's ever claimed a national title in the pre-BCS era. So,
any thoughts that I have regarding Michigan, I will defer to Paul Feinbaum.
There you go.
Some coaching openings.
We should. I do want to squeeze in. You were talking about the schedule for this next week.
Yeah.
The schedule for the college football playoff is preposterous.
What do you got here?
We have the semifinals on the 28th, and we have the games on the 12th, I believe, of January.
13th, maybe?
The 8th, right? No,
it's the 13th or something. 12th.
Yeah, it's crazy late. So it's dumb, man. It's just dumb. It's bad scheduling. I don't know.
Why can't they play that Monday?
I understand why the 2 bowl games don't want to do it this way, but they should just have the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl be the 2 semifinal games, I think.
They should. Yep.
Some SEC openings. Clay Helton may be fired and maybe not fired. Nobody knows for sure. So
Boston College fired Adazio. South Florida fired their guy. Ole Miss fired their guy. So
some openings.
What about the dudes at Boston College? Is that all now? The dudes are done.
Zach mentioned them.
Yeah.
Dudes doing things or whatever the fuck it was. Guys being dudes. He'll latch on somewhere and be
We still have. I mean, Florida State is still open. We have Missouri's going to be open. So I don't know.
We'll see how healthy Urban Meyer is. I don't know.
This is going to be a pretty light year though for the college football head coaching changes, right? At the major programs.
I mean, maybe it depends how those first few dominoes fall to open up other things, but.
And if Baylor wins this week and Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley gets called by the Cowboys and leaves, all of a sudden you got Oklahoma open. So you never know.
Matt Rule will go to the NFL.
You got Adam Gase going to Florida State. Look at that. College football. So what we should be by what? Sunday, Monday. The bowl pick'em should be going up. So we're a week away from the bowl pick'em.
Congrats, Marcus, on the win this year.
Did I win it?
Won the conference picks. I think Mr. Stacken won the weekly picks. So there you go.
I would like to use a 30-second soapbox to thank the teams that I picked late in the year, mainly Arkansas for giving Missouri a scare on Friday, giving me hope that I may have pulled a big-time upset. I had Oregon State and UCLA both win games they weren't supposed to win earlier in the year. I had Rutgers fight as a 40-point underdog at Penn State on Saturday. So I appreciate these shitty teams that I saved for the wrong weeks, not completely embarrassing themselves. It's a nice feeling to win. It's a convoluted game, as we've all learned.
Great game.
It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I think I've never even come close to winning, but love playing it.
It's a great game. Bull Pick'em coming up next week, so that'll be a whole hell of a lot of fun.
I'm going to call my shot right now. I think I might win at Bull Pick.
Oh, wow.
Really? You think you might? What a bold statement.
Way to stick your neck out there, Stacking.
Wow.
Should we get this bowl question for Krentz out of the way early? If Alabama happens to lose their bowl game, is it because they didn't care? And that's the only reason they lost. The other team doesn't get any credit at all for winning.
Yeah,
The worst part about them losing yesterday is that they're probably going to play Virginia in the Orange Bowl, and oh my God, Alabama's going to murder Virginia.
I looked at some stuff, and it's like either Virginia or it's whoever is the Group of 5 team, and either of those are like, I feel sorry for the other team.
Okay, so you bring up Virginia. Can I just ask something? Because everyone's saying that Clemson is in regardless.
Jeff Stacking, his first name is Bronco. That's his actual first name.
Oh, that's very true.
Virginia.
If hell froze over and Virginia beats Clemson,
get them out.
Is Clemson in? Because everyone.
I don't think so. I think they're out if they lose.
I agree.
I think they're out.
And Dabo Sweeney can go eat a butt as far as I'm concerned. I love Clemson. We all love Clemson. We all love the idea of Clemson. But Dabo Sweeney acting like, oh, nobody wants us in there. If you're undefeated, you're going to be in there. You may not be the number one team. We kind of discussed that as well. But don't act like you're getting screwed or you don't have a chance. I mean, UCF didn't have a chance. Goddamn Hawaii, Timmy Chang, Cole Brennan, they didn't have a chance. You've got plenty of a chance. So.
Jared Zabransky
didn't have a chance. Jared Zabransky didn't die for this. All right.
Dabo. You suck. NFL football. The Ravens appear to be the team here. Their quarterback's very good. Defense is very good. New England losing at the moment. So probably maybe losing this game, and Baltimore would then be the 1 seed. The old man, Brady, seems to be slowing down a bit, it appears. I don't know what the future holds for him, but is this maybe the first sign here, Marcus, finally, that – I mean, Gronkowski's not there anymore. It appears that this offense isn't actually tearing it up or isn't actually even maybe an average offense. It's all about this defense. And if it's Baltimore and New England again, well, that'd be pretty good.
I do have a feeling that they might be sandbagging just because this is the Patriots and they may not be full go until the playoffs. But I do agree. As somebody who has Julian Edelman on his fantasy team, you're just kind of like, okay, and he's always hurt, and they can't seem to figure out the running back thing. They've got Sony Michel, but they don't seem to trust any of the running backs. So I think that the offense is – I mean, this is clearly a Patriots team that is being driven by the defense, and that's maybe more reminiscent of the beginning of this whole run. But until they're beaten and dead and gone, I'm not going to write them off because we probably had the same conversation last year, and we have the same conversation every year. I mean, what was it? A few years ago, they got beat on Monday night by Kansas City, and everybody's like, they're done for. So I won't fall for it, I should say. Be a fool.
Charlie, Andrew Luck was supposed to be the guy to take over in the AFC from the Mannings and the Coolies and Roethlisberger, but he's done. Lamar Jackson appears to be that guy. Is this a sustainable thing? People compare him obviously to Michael Vick, and Vick didn't really last much. He might be maybe a little better, or has probably a better team around him like Vick did. Baltimore, they're a Super Bowl contender every now and then. So is Lamar Jackson the next guy for the AFC? Because we've been waiting here to see who's going to be the next.
You don't think it's Ryan Fitzpatrick with the Dolphins?
I don't know. He's old. He's a young 37 or whatever he is.
I think on paper, or I shouldn't say on paper, on screen when you're watching, it looks like it can definitely be Lamar Jackson. Like you mentioned, I think the only big thing is if he can stay healthy, and I mean, hopefully he can because he's incredibly fun to watch. And it looks like I didn't think Baltimore would take advantage of his talents properly. It looks like they most certainly are whenever they play, which is incredibly entertaining to watch. And then I guess the only other thing with mobile quarterbacks is with a lot of them, it just seems like the longer they go, the less they run. And if he can, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years from now, continue to be healthy and also just, be good enough throwing it when he's not running. And I hope he can, because it's so weird to see Baltimore look entertaining on offense.
I know. Baltimore and like the Chiefs with Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes, you kind of want to watch them at home. Stacking, what is it about the AFC? They always have that one garbage team. Like this year, it appears to be the Steelers that are maybe going to make the playoffs somehow. They always got that 6th seed, that Buffalo, that Jacksonville.
The Titans.
The Titans always at 8-8, 9-7.
The Dolphins, when the Dolphins make the playoffs.
If you can win 9 games in the AFC, you got a good shot at that 6th seed. So you got Pittsburgh right now. How are they? You've got Cleveland shitting the bed. You've got the Chargers seemingly on a weekly basis shitting the bed. And here's Pittsburgh with some random fuck at quarterback. They're third string guy, whoever else the guy is.
Devlin Duck Hodges from Samford University.
What's this? What is this?
So first off, the Chargers have lost every game this year by one score or less. It's absolutely astounding.
If they played the Lions, what the fuck would happen?
They did play the Lions and they lost 13-10.
Well, now we know.
It's amazing. I don't know quite how to explain what Pittsburgh's doing. I think today was a revenge game, and Cleveland, inexplicably up 10-0, just decided to crap the bed after that. No other way around it. Pittsburgh sucks, and yet somehow they're 7-5. I don't get it, but they won't make the playoffs. By the way, Bills Steelers just got flexed to Sunday Night Football Week 15, so the Vikings Chargers game is now at 3:05 p.m. Central Time on
Vikings
CBS.
Chargers. They bumped Vikings Chargers.
They did bump Vikings Chargers.
Those bastards.
They did.
It's a sad day when the Vikings are getting moved off national TV because of the Bills. So thanks for nothing, Bills.
This isn't the Vikings' fault.
I would also theorize that Devlin Hodges, store brand FCS quarterback, has stolen the body and soul of Carson Wentz. The FCS mantra. That's my story. Is that this Duck Hodges, who loves duck hunting like Wentz does or whatever, has stolen Carson Wentz's soul, and
Carson Wentz sucks.
He sucks, man, and I love it.
Can we possibly start this as a sports lounge, like theory / idea that whenever an FCS quarterback, the youngest one, starts, they just instantly become the good FCS quarterback, and there's only allowed to be one at a time?
I like that.
Yep. Well, wait a
It's like
second.
Highlander, there can only be one.
Jimmy Garoppolo is an FCS quarterback.
Yeah, that's all right. I forgot about that.
He got worked by the Patriots, so Patriots.
Yeah. Win it Coughlin, then I'll say, hey, you're somebody.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Coughlin don't lose by 50 points. Get the hell out of here. On the other side, the NFC's got a bunch of good teams, and it feels like there's going to be that NFC East team that gets in there. I think that's that 5 seed. I want that 5 seed. Marcus, very much so. Big game. Me and Stacken talked about it a couple days ago. This Seattle game, I think, is huge, hugely important. If they can I don't expect them to win this game whatsoever. If they can, I think they can win out and be like a 2 seed. But if not,
I agree.
they're kind of the 6 seed. And you got to play Green Bay or the Saints again, or whoever the hell else.
Yeah, it's a huge regular season game, probably as big as you can possibly have with 5 weeks left or whatever. I'm in the same boat. I don't think they're going to win, but give it a shot, see what happens. I think, boy, this feels like if Kirk Cousins can win this one,
This is the one.
he's going to have some people get off his back finally. So I'm rooting hard for Kirk. I'm rooting hard for the Vikings to get it done. It's going to be tough, but I think interestingly, and this is Tyler Lockett not probably going to play for the Seahawks. Adam Thielen not going to play for the Vikings. So that's interesting that each team going to be down a major receiver. I don't really know how the hell the Vikings are doing this with the wide receivers that they have, where it's just Stephon Diggs and BC Johnson, and that's basically. And then we got Treadwell, the corpse of Laquan Treadwell out there, but they're doing it, man.
It's a lot of that stack and screen game.
What's that?
A lot of that stack and screen game.
That's right.
Dumps here, dumps there, boop-a-doo, 10 catches for Dalvin Cook. There you go. Packers played in the snow, and I guess people kind of lost their minds with overimposing of the lines. And like some people that had never seen this, whether this happened last year, we talked about it a couple of years ago, or at least last year, they did this during the game, and I liked it because without it, kind of you have no idea where they're at. So I guess people didn't like it, but it's happened before, and I think it's a good idea.
It's not a new thing. I mean, some of these people, you're like, have you never watched football before? I mean, wasn't it when the Vikings and the Ravens played in that weird ass game where there were like 8 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes? Didn't they have the superimposed graphics for that? That was like 5 years ago.
That was like a long time ago.
Yeah, it was in the snow. That would have been 7 years ago.
I was still in college when that happened, so.
I don't know why people are so upset about that.
People should be more upset that ESPN yesterday during the Gophers game had like this green thing. Did you guys see that on the replays? They have like this green thing that outlined like the tackle box and then like the area in front of the line of scrimmage, like almost it was like the 3-yard RPO blocking area thing. And they never said anything about it. They just had it on there. And I'm like, okay, because it was a different shade of green. It was like the green zone thing that NBC does. It was weird. It was wider than just the tackle. So it wasn't like it was just but like every replay from the end of the field had that. So
I feel like the yellow line is enough for the first down. I don't need the field to be green, darker shade of green in front of that. So there you go.
What would it look like if they were playing at Boise?
Yeah, make the whole field blue.
Make it blue. Why no black fields? There's been red fields, blue fields, green fields. What Eastern Michigan's gray fields fuck me up every time I see it. I think a black field with white lines would be cool as shit. The Raiders.
I think teams commonly have black jerseys or black pants, so that's maybe where the issue comes into play.
Let's get a black field. We've seen a lot of NBA teams last couple of years have like alternate courts. Let's have some alternate fields. Let's really.
We're not playing.
LSU, they always wear white.
Do that. Do something different. College
Off
basketball.
the bayou. I mean, that's black, right? I don't know.
That's Ed Orgeron. Thumbs up to old Ed. Getting it done.
We coming.
Wait for the Cowboys come calling for Ed.
What if Ed Orgeron's the next head coach of the Cowboys?
I'm a Cowboys fan then. That's what that means. I'm a Cowboys fan. That is what that means.
We're going to give Zeke the ball, boys. Zeke, you can get touchdowns for us.
Get that ball. Yeah.
Get them beignets from New Orleans. Go get them all. Just ship them over to Tell. So beignets.
The beignets. Get over the big upsets of the college basketball season. You had my Purple Aces from Evansville.
By the way, I've shit the bed since that.
I know that.
Doesn't matter.
They got that one. They beat Kentucky, and then Stephen F. Austin, Stone Cold stuns Duke.
Our Lumberjacks.
I'll give that one to you. Give me the Purple Aces. I'll give you the Lumberjacks.
Thank you.
Charlie, was there a lot of Stone Cold stuff out there on Twitter once they won that game, it appears.
There was. For the naivete idiocy on my part, is I thought, oh my god, I'm going to tweet a Stone Cold Steve Austin thing. I'm probably going to be the only one that does this, and did it, and then hit refresh on my Twitter timeline. And was like, not only was mine used, was that used like 14 other people used my idea, like the GIF that I used, and I was just like, this is not original, Charlie. Hold yourself to a higher standard.
Good idea, though. Good idea. Fun deal. And you're watching these games, and you're like, all right, it's close for a while, and then it becomes the second half. You get down to that about 10-minute mark, and you're like, all right, we got a game here. So that's fun to watch. Michigan, they won the week with the college basketball. Won the battle for Atlantis. They beat Carolina. They beat Gonzaga as well.
And Iowa State. Don't forget Iowa State.
Iowa State. So they're going to go from unranked to, I don't know, maybe fifth. I'd put them very high. They played exceptional. And they've got, what is it?
Jawan Howard.
Yeah,
I was saying, I hope they're ranked fifth, because fifth with Jawan Howard, who was part of the Fab Five, there's all sorts of little Socratic things there.
I think they play Maryland, maybe. That's a big game coming up next week. That is not a part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Maryland, for some fucking reason. There's a team right there. So, anything else stacking?
I'm just checking here. Just hold on a second.
Marcus, the volleyball, our Coyotes didn't get in. They lost one too many games. That's a shame. Brings it up to your face.
Iowa hosts Michigan, by the way. Iowa at Michigan, excuse me.
Who does Maryland play?
Let's get that.
Surprised USC didn't make it?
I can't honestly say I was surprised or stunned or whatever. I don't care about the at-larges in Division I volleyball. I do watch usually at the end of the year the Final Four or whatever, but I'm not been out of shape. I mean, the 27-2, the record on its own would seem to indicate that they should be in, but you take a quick look at the numbers, it's just like basketball because they have all the RPI and strength of schedule stuff. And it's not that good. They didn't beat anybody in the top 50 in RPI. They only had 6 wins against the top 100. The conference was bad, 22nd out of 32. Strength of schedule in the 140s. No real, great wins. There's not a reason to put them in other than that they just have 2 losses. I think they only played. As far as I can tell, they only played 2 tournament teams. They went to Iowa State and got swept, and they played Denver, which ended up winning the league. You got to win your league. It's the same thing we always say. If you want to make sure you get in, you got to win your league. So they can be mad. I think it's, it stinks for them. You win 27 out of 29 matches this year, and you don't get in the NCAA tournament, but that's Division I for you. So
that's what people are going to be upset. They didn't get in. They were 27-2. And people on the radio and TV and in the newspaper, they're, how does this happen? And then it just replay the last 60 seconds of what you said, who they played, who they beat, who they didn't beat. And, that's not going to be brought up when people go on the radio and say, how do they not get in? Well, that's why they don't get in. And it's really not that difficult to say, hey, this is why they didn't get in. But they're not going to put in that effort to say.
They're just like, hey, the little guy keeps getting left out. And that's just not accurate based on, as you mentioned, who they played and who they didn't beat. So, simple as that.
I don't know the answer to this question. I'm not asking this sarcastically. Is there like an NIT for volleyball?
I don't think so.
I just saw that there is. It's run by it's the same people that put on the WNIT. Yeah.
Oh my God, Christ Almighty! Oh,
and they just tweeted that because apparently last year when the WNIT field came out, they had all the wrong teams and stuff, wrong matchups, and so they just tweeted like, "Hey, we're double checking that we got the right teams. We learned from the." So it just shows how it's a poorly run operation from the start. So.
Well, that's going to be a whole hell of a lot of another national championship coming to USD. That'll be 2 of them now. SDSU, you got to catch up. We haven't won a national title yet. In the runners-up bracket among the other teams.
They will compete to be the 65th best team in the country.
It's a big deal. In that top 65. SDSU plays next week. Charlie, weather's going to be, I guess, normal, 30, 32 degrees, I guess, what you would expect. Beginning of December, they play Northern Iowa, a team that played like a month ago or so, if that. Over under 6,000 people. A team people.
Under. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be under.
Over under 5.
I think it's over 5,000, but just barely.
Whatever
so 51-12.
Whatever the temperature is, add 2 zeros to that, and that'll be very.
200, 3,500. Look at that.
I'd like to say that Sacken is going to be way off, but that's probably as good a guess as anybody's going to put up. So I would love to agree with Charlie's guess that there'll be 5,100 fans, but I think it'll be under 5,000.
Under 5.
They were fortunate. I mean, they won 38-7 the first time they played them. It got a little out of hand late. Northern Iowa apparently likely to get back some key players for this game, so should be closer. It probably has the potential to be the best, game of this round, but I don't know. It's a tricky game, and for SDSU, considering that they had the sloppy end of the year, they lost to USD. You salvage something by getting a little bit of a playoff run. So let's see what they've got in them here.
For whatever reason, I don't know why they bring him any other year, but they did.
What?
Attendance has been a big issue. I don't know why it's this year instead of last year. You can mention it any year. It's always the same. But they mentioned it this year.
Because they focused on it this year. This was the number one issue for the athletic department coming into the year was football attendance, and it has not increased at all.
And I don't know if they want to do a survey or ask people. I'm just going to guess here. I mean, weather and things and opponents have a lot to do with it. I'm going to say the ticket prices are probably up there with a big reason.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap to go to a game and have a decent seat. So that is, I think it's the number one issue. I think it's a legitimate issue. And I think it's the one place they have to go. You have to try to build the fan base and give people a reason to go to the games. And just because they're good doesn't mean people are going to show up. That's been clearly laid out now. I think aside from literally taking a bus and driving it down to Sioux Falls and literally just rounding up people and throwing them in the bus and forcing them to go to the game, I don't know what else they're going to do to get people to show up. Although I think it's an interesting idea to have a jackrabbit Gestapo almost that picks people up and drives them to the game.
Like that van in the movie Old School with the pledges.
Right.
Can we all just go ahead, Charles?
Okay. Do they still have that dumb rule where like they shut down tailgating like 20 minutes before the game starts and make everyone go in the stadium?
Mm-hmm.
They don't do an announcement like they used to over the PA where they're like, you got 15 minutes before tailgating closes and you have to go into the city. But they do still have that rule as far as I know. So.
I know that doesn't help because before I started working at the SID office, I would occasionally go to games, but not that often, but would frequently go tailgate and then be like, all right, I'm going to go back to my apartment and watch other games on TV. But at times you get talked into going in there as a student. And then that if you just do that, I mean, I don't know. I think it's such a weird, I don't know why they have that rule in the first place. But to me, that's like one of the dumbest athletic decisions they've ever made. Just be like, all right, let's have tailgating. We're a Division I school. Like we're only a Division I school when we want to be, when it's convenient for us.
Can we all agree that the people who want Stiegelmeier out can go to hell?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a real large part of the population. I don't think those people mean it, to be honest. I just think, they lost a game they shouldn't have lost to USD, but USD played well enough to win.
This was before the USD game, though. Like
These people, these are the ones that you just don't pay attention to.
I don't know if I've ever seen two football games talking about Illinois State and USD where it was so clear why they lost the game. The turnovers. It was so clear that they had 4 turnovers in each game, and they directly led to them losing the game. I don't know if I've ever seen it just laid out as nicely as it did in those 2 games. They didn't hold on to the ball. That's why they lost. It wasn't because of Stig or anything else. I mean, it's just I think you wonder sometimes if these people are watching the same game you're watching, because it's just not – it doesn't add up what some of these people are arguing.
Can we also say that the season absolutely turned when Jabari Gibbs got injured against NDSU? I mean, this is
no question,
because they would have beat NDSU. I think they would have probably been the 1 seed or the 2 seed if Jabari stays healthy.
Fair.
I can't guarantee that just because this is SDSU and they always have a dud, and they might have had a dud with Jabari Gibbs. They had 2 after Gibbs went down. But I do agree that they probably do win that NDSU game the way it was going, and they're talking home field for the whole playoffs, and that's a huge thing. It would have been, I think, from an attendance standpoint, it would have been more embarrassing if you're the number 1 team in the country and you draw 5,000 in your first playoff game. I mean, and that's the reality they're looking at. This year, next year, whatever. So,
can Nichols State Nichols, I guess, keep the score under? Will they lose by over or under 40 to NDSU?
The real question is, does NDSU put them outside in a tent to have them dress like they had UND do, or apparently like they have every opponent do outside their stadium? It'd be a little different in Fargo, I think. I think NDSU wins by about 45 points, to answer your question.
I think NDSU should be in the college football playoff.
I was telling these guys, I said, this is the year. NDSU, you want to go to a bowl game? Knock yourselves out. There's all kinds of bowl games to go to. Go ahead and replace the 6-6 team and go play in the. Can we get
rid of Rutgers in the Big Ten and add NDSU?
No, my Cornhuskers need every win they can get. They're not adding North Dakota State. And in terms of North Dakota State in the playoff, and maybe only Krenz will get this reference. I mean, it's not too super complicated, though, but it is a wrestling one. I'm okay with North Dakota State in the playoffs if they go through a late 90s Stone Cold Vince McMahon, all these horrible obstacles that they somehow keep coming out on top. And it's just I don't know. He keeps flipping people off and stunning people and winning games. And if North Dakota State is I don't know, they beat Alabama and then they beat Oklahoma, so I guess they're in now. Then I'm okay with that.
You got to put them in. They beat everybody you put in front of them. There we go. With that, we're done. 78 lounge a minute. Nope. Not too bad. 4 blocks worked pretty well. So that's the way it's going to be for Charles George for Jack attacking his Southwest. Yeah, you're talking to me right there, boy. That's the good stuff. Marcus. Yeah. Stacking.
What?
This is DeMarcus. What is this?
Cedar Rapids Colonels, man.
Stacking said he could have gave him 30 guesses. He wouldn't have gotten it.
38, exactly.
Come on, Stacking. One of the few minor league teams that isn't going to be shut down by Major League Baseball.
Sorry, Rob Manfred.
There we go. Got the home fires burning. Got the kid talking. Everything's going. So get your scoop shovels out. Put your chains on your tires, and we'll probably do another one before the end of the year. So when we see you next, Lounge 278 in the